Drink it in, man.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread! Cornbread! Cornbread!
Drink it in, man.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Detroit Koolaid, Detroit Koolaid drinkers. What's going on, everybody? It's your host, Eric. We're right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast, talking about those Detroit Lions. And today, we got news and notes. We got things around the division. We got other things to talk about. But today, we're diving deep. We're getting into the NFL draft. Drink it in, everybody. Drink it in, man. Side of cornbread.
Cornbread!
Make it a double.
Cornbread!
I got lots to talk about. I got player buckets I want to get into. I got values. I got Lions, Oakery targets. And you know the guy that's going to argue with me about it, tell me why I'm so wrong, tell me everything that I'm mistaken about. He's the co-host of the show. He's back as he always is, ready to talk about those Lions and drink some of that Kool-Aid. You can find him on Twitter, on X, at Chops in the D. Choppy Chop, you're back. What's going on, buddy? Let's do this.
Detroit Koolaid listeners, happy to be back on a countdown? What's the countdown, Oakery? Are we like 20? No, not even like 16 days away from the draft. It's getting ridiculous. Stuff's getting real. Like we got a lot of content to put out there to the people. All draft, all day. Let's go.
I don't think it's 16. I think we're more at 20 plus, probably 23 if my math is correct. So tack on another week of content there. You don't want to short the people, but we've been dinking around, man, kind of like talking about some of these other things. The Lions obviously did their free agency, got the guys they love, and we are coming down the home stretch. 3 weeks and some change basically until the draft will be in Detroit. We did have Cam Sutton turn himself into authorities, which was nice. Choppy, did you hear about the rumor innuendo that Tyler Boyd is getting some interest from the Detroit Lions? That seems like a nice Josh Reynolds replacement. What do you think about that real quick before we get rolling?
Those Cincinnati receivers are there's some dogs out there, so we've definitely got a hole. Though, did you hear the rumor innuendo that like Josh Reynolds couldn't handle the fan noise and the boola from the folks, and that was part of his decision as to why to leave Detroit? I got so much to say about that, but I probably won't say anything about that. But that's weak sauce, man. That's weak. If you can't handle the boola coming out of Detroit, you can't handle the millions and millions of people cheering your ass on when you're rocking Ford Field, giving you the business when you're dropping passes in the NFC Championship game, then, maybe you shouldn't just be in this town.
I don't know, man. A lot of people were blaming the guy for everything under the sun. I mean, it happens. They were pretty bad drops, but I think it just came down to change of scenery. He wasn't changing the world. It gives JMO some more opportunities, so it's not a big deal to me. Speaking of not a big deal to me, and everybody, we're basically diving in right into draft here in a moment, but I feel like at Chops in the D, loves himself some Brock Wright and is going crazy about, Brock Wright got signed to an offer sheet. You're all up in arms about this. I like this player. He's a good blocking tight end. He fits as a depth player, but if the Lions match or not, I don't care. I saw a lot of people going crazy. You can't lose. He's an extension of the offensive line. You gotta pay this man. I'm thinking, we're talking about the same guy, right? Brock Wright. I mean, good dude, good player, but I'm not losing sleep over this, but I feel like you are.
Well, if you actually paid attention to my Twitter feed, you would have said that paying the guy $4 million a year is probably not something that me or Brad Holmes wants to do. So I loved Brock Wright. I was very happy to actually have him as our number one tight end going into last year before we drafted the Laporta supporters. And but no, I don't want to pay Brock Wright $4 million a year to be my second blocking tight end. So I'm not up in arms about it, but it's news and notes. You were right. There are people that are freaking out about it, and I'm like, all right, like we also have some other dudes in the mix, and there's plenty of tight ends in this draft we could take as well. So, but the deadline is coming up quickly on whether or not the Lions are going to sign him to this offer sheet and match it and pay him or let him walk. So it's interesting to see what Brad Holmes is going to do, and then following the press conference afterwards to hear his take on it will be fun stuff as well.
Isn't there much more entertaining things to talk about, like the Lions bringing DJ Reader into Allen Park and giving him no flight home? I mean, that's a much bigger story. Like, they were signing this cat no matter what. They probably heard the Koolaid Cast about 5 weeks ago, multiple weeks before free agency, where he was basically my number 2 target behind my boy Christian Wilkins, who got paid the most in free agency. So you know what podcast Brad Holmes, he's always open for business. He's always open to listen to the Koolaid Cast. You know what I'm saying? Just saying. I'm just saying.
That is correct. We know that Brad Holmes listens to this. And, I'm pretty sure that he was rocking the always open for business shirt, but it was on the back of the shirt. So it said grit on the front and then always open for business on the back. And so the people couldn't see it on the live telecast, but it was there, people. It was there.
Oh, yes. Gosh, can we just have more time in the day? Because I have been talking to Notorious DET about more merch options, more tees, more things. We just got to carve out more hours to get some of this done and get some good stuff for the people here in the near future. But we'll see what happens with that. Chaps, one more thing before we do the draft stuff. I know you've kind of been wanting to either talk about the division or wanting to talk about free agents. So you know me, I just want to talk NFL draft. But if you want to get into anything else, I did write free agents down on my boy Quandre Diggs. I know you're going to hate Odell Beckham Jr. to Detroit, but I think he's got juice left for one more year, depending on what his price tag would be. Or can you get me one of these corners? I think C.J. Henderson might still be out there. We know Stephon Gilmore's out there. How about my boy Isaiah Oliver? Did he sign anywhere? He might have. It's hard to track all these low-end free agent things with the lives that we live. But can I get a corner and maybe Q Diggs? Because that'd make me feel happy here at the end of free agency.
Yeah, you've talked about that in the past. Quandre Diggs is a dog. He fits the mentality. You had to correct me and tell me that he would definitely fit the culture, and I don't disagree. So yeah, it would be really nice to get some help in the secondary. We got to decide what we're going to do about Brian Branch because of his versatility. Of course, we know people were going to address the issues in the draft, but man, J.C. Jackson's still out there, Adoree Jackson's still out there, Stephon Gilmore's still out there. Lots of names, man. Like, I would feel a lot better going into the draft if we would plug in a free agent here and lock in that other spot at cornerback, and then we can just free flow and do our thing in the draft. So lots of free agent stuff there to talk about. And the NFC North, look, we know who's the king of the North. I know you've got the sound drop. You're going to play it as soon as I shut up and stop talking. But listen, the NFC North runs through Detroit. We are the king in the North. And I don't really know what else there is to say about that other than just run Fields just ran his ass to Pittsburgh.
The king in the North. The king in the North.
You're making me work overtime, Chop, because I'm on the wireless mic. If we sound a little bit different, we are prepping for draft day, which means me and Chops, live microphones, multiple hours. I'm moving around the DTO scouting office. Many of you listening will be in downtown Detroit getting kooky and crazy, waiting around for one selection on Thursday, probably multiple selections on Friday, and Brad Holmes doing his real work on Saturday, and we'll be talking all about it. So we're testing out the wireless mics. I'm moving around. And Chops, you know why I'm moving around? Because I'm taking over the show this week. This is the straight up Oakery DTO scouting show. I've been putting in work. I've been trying to get organized. I still got a lot of reading and research to do. But Chops, I want to do player buckets, player value, Oakery Lions targets today. I mean, I've got people by main positions. I've got them by round estimates. I've got guys divvied up that I want versus the main big 500 player list that many people look at. I think we need to get into this, man. I think I need to give you my thoughts. I need your rebuttals. I need you to tell me if we need to add players. And all the listeners out there will get a real handle after today of who the DTO scouting office and your host, at Derek Oakley on Twitter, wants his Lions to draft to bolster this football team so we can win the Super Bowl. You ready to do this? That sound like a plan or what?
I think that sounds like a great plan. We know the people want draft content. We have draft content. We have a Google sheet that the select few, actually not so much select few, we've been pretty generous with the Google sheet this year. You've been generous with the Google sheet. They see the movements, the placements, the rankings, all in one spot. It's a huge perk for the people that subscribe and or support. That support the show. We give them access to the sheet, and I think it would be great if the people could hear all the things that you are thinking with your buckets.
Chops, we did make the mistake last week. We told the people we're going away from subscriptions, and then for like 5 minutes straight, we told people if they subscribe, they can get this and get that. We're going back to listener support. If you love this show, if you want to donate to the show, it really helps us keep our equipment rolling, all the things we're doing, keep this show rolling. Or if you drop like a review on iTunes, you hit us up on Twitter, tell us how much you love the show, tell us what you love about the show, tell us what we're doing wrong. We love all that. So any listener support on any level is always tremendous. But Chops, the pick is in. The Oakley buckets values are in. And how about we start at the cornerback position, Chops? Everybody's main thing, probably because we can't cover a coffee table and we got sliced and diced throughout the season, especially in the NFC Championship game in the second half where we blew the football game. So what I did is I pulled my guys off, and I've got it by rounds 1 to 7. The guys I have in the first round stacked pretty much in order are Quinyon Mitchell, Terrion Arnold, Koolaid, and my boy TJ Tampa. Those are my 4 corners that I feel like have round 1 value that will be there, possibly be there for the Lions, or if the Lions were to move up. This is a exercise where we're removing all the other names, all the top people that probably will be gone or that the Lions will not have opportunities to get. So those are my round 1 bucket for corners. Round 2, Mikey Sanders still, and my boy Kyrie Jackson. Chops, here's a little nugget for you. I took him in my last mock. I think it was the Oakley mock 3.0, 4.0, whatever it was. Kyrie Jackson is a 6'4" corner out of Oregon that likes to play the football, will tackle, make some things happen. So to me, he's like a round 2, maybe early round 3-ish value. But I like this player. Round 3 buckets, Jarvis Brownlee from Louisville, who we talked about last week. Max Melton has my attention in rounds 3, round 4-ish. Renardo Green is the guy I've been talking about Florida State in round 4. That's pretty much where I leveled off here at this point. Again, what does Stephen A. say? This is fluid. This list is fluid. I'm still working on it. So I don't have many late corners other than my boy Jarius Monroe. I've been telling you about out of Tulane. He's around 6'7" type prospect. So any big issues, any names that jump out? Yes, my boy Wiggins, who I told you is back in my top 15, is not on there. But this is why I'm trying to thin out the list. So that's where I'm at with corners right there. What do you think?
I love the list, man. I also love how you take a guy off the list. Then last week you scold me for not doing my homework and getting him back on the list. And then this week he's back off the list. So I love it because I don't want him on the list. So good to hear the omission of Mr. Wiggins on your round 1 bucket. But I can't disagree with anything else. The only thing I would say is, man, Mikey Sanders still is to me, he's sliding his way up into the first round bucket atmosphere. I know people are kind of, you either love the dude or you think that he shouldn't be drafted at all. I don't know. It's crazy. There's no in between. You say he's a first rounder, people jump on you. You say he's a third rounder and people go bananas. You can't make anybody happy here. But I like the list. Another one that I love that I think I kind of put in my second round there and again, I apologize. You threw a lot of names out there for me, but I love Rakestraw from Oh, Missouri. I'd throw him on my second round bucket. And I love the take that you give on Kyrie Jackson because that guy is kind of popping around in the second round as well. And I'm loving that name in and out as well. So nicely done, sir.
I appreciate that. It's funny you bring it up because Regstraw was my main guy from Mizzou that I liked him. Now I've done some more research on him. There's some questions. He's kind of big physical, likes to tackle, but I've heard some not so glowing reports about him. And you're gonna have to take him late round 1, early in round 2 if you want that player. I think it's probably better to pass. I'm looking at other names. The other name I've heard Jeff Risdon from Lions Wire and others talk about is Chris Abrams-Drain, also from Mizzou. They seem to like this player more than Regstraw, which is surprising. In our general site that we use, he's 66 overall, but he's more of a nickel corner. I've seen him in rounds 2, 3-ish, but I don't think we need another nickel, so that's why he's off my list. And again, just to support my list, Wiggins isn't on and off and on and off. He's just sort of, when I was really slimming it down, I left him in the bigger pool, not my slimmer list that I'm trying to make. And there's like nobody else that's popping. I'm going through these other names. If you guys have a late corner for me, let me know. But no one else is really popping off to me as somebody that needs to be in that rounds 6, 7, 5, even that 5 range. Other than my boy from Tulane. So I think it's very important, as you've heard me say multiple times, it's going to be a hard one to pass on early and think that you're going to fill it because, as you see, when we get to wide receivers, I got so many more names. So that's why I can wait and get those guys later if possible. So you want to move to edges, man? You've been talking about wanting to pair somebody up with Hutch. I've got some edge buckets, some edge players here we can get into.
Yeah, before we do that, I do have one last late round name that I want to throw out there, and I know you're probably gonna shake your head on this, but don't sleep on Josh Wallace. I know that he was kind of, the spotlight wasn't on him quite as much at Michigan because of the other guy across from him, your boy Will Johnson. But Josh Wallace to me has some sleeper potential. Just a solid dude, a Michigan man, plays in a pro defense. Like, I like that guy a lot. I think he's a sneaky name later in the rounds if he's there. I wouldn't mind the Lions taking a shot at him. But other than that, I like your buckets and ready to move on to edges, buddy.
I'm not going to poo-poo it, but I'm not going to give kudos. My question is, would you also like Wallace if he played at South Dakota State? I'm just curious.
Of course. Of course I would.
How about Kalen King from Penn State, formerly a top 1 to 2 round player that's now completely buried? Should he be in the late round bucket at this point?
Man, he started off with so much hype, and it just kind of died down, and I think Penn State kind of couldn't win a big game, and he wasn't a big X factor in any games where they actually played people that had talent. So, if the Brad Holmes likes his interview and they think he's got some upside and he's a project player, sure, but I don't see that.
Yeah, I feel like tackling, toughness, some other things are issues with that player. But if there's enough talent there and he's available in the mid to late rounds, it might be worth a flyer. So I'm gonna put your boy Josh Wallace. I'm going to have Kalen King as a maybe, but that's only at a much discounted rate later in the draft. Let's get to edges here. For me, I almost didn't put Jared Verse on there, but I have seen his range going from early first round to later in that round 1, so I at least want him on my short targets. If he comes off in the top 15, that's no problem, but I wanted him on my round 1 bucket for edges. There's another guy, Chops, that I waffled on, but I've also waffled and read more and looked into it more. I mean, they just love Latu from UCLA. They say he's the most polished rusher. He has every move in the book. They don't seem too concerned about the medicals. That was my big reason that he was off my board. I've seen him go everywhere from top 10 to pick 29 to the Detroit Lions. I think that was a late Okri mock where he was available. Best player, took him. 18th ranked overall on our main list that we're using right here. And my boy Darius Robinson. Those are my top 3 that I have. No, I don't have Chop Robinson. I don't like the player. I don't like anything other than his freakish athleticism. That's not enough to make the Oakery list. You got to love ball and play the run and do a whole bunch of other things. So my round 2 buckets, Jonah Ellis. I talked about him a week or two ago. He's in my round 2. My round 3 buckets for edges, I've got the kid from Western Michigan, Nealand. I've got Braylon Trice. He's in that 2-3 range. I dropped him to round 3. Adisa Isaac from Penn State. He's been anywhere from rounds 1 to 3. I've got him in my round 3 bucket. If he's there, I'd consider him. Round 5, Jalen Harrell from Michigan. Yes, he made the list kind of because of the school he went to. National champs, by the way. A kid that I can't pronounce the name, but I like some things about him from Washington. Obviously, they had a great year, and he seems like a productive kid worth a 5th round type value. And then a guy we talked about in your choppy Maki, Jalen Green from James Madison, an edge player, 6'1", on the shorter side, only 245 pounds, but lots of TFLs, lots of sacks. Those are the edges that I have my eye on, and yeah, you can name off a million other names, but it's much easier come draft day when we have them slimmed, targeted, and in these round buckets, if you ask me.
Yep, I like that list. I hate to be agreeable with you, but I'm glad that you're coming around on Latu, because I know we liked him. You had a big concern about his medical, which I don't disagree with that. Like, you know how I feel about medicals. The funny thing is, this kid is 23 years old. These just seems like older and older, and and just in comparison, you're talking Chop Robinson and Darius Robinson are like 21. So 23 years old, but I've seen him mocked to the Lions as well, so I like that player. It seems like his medical stuff is cleared, so it's not even a talking point anymore, so by a lot of people. So that's kind of a funny thing to me, but no, I like the first round list there. The only name that I'm seeing that you didn't have on there, you didn't have Dallas Turner on there, the 6'4" from Alabama. I don't expect him to be there for the Lions, but I would definitely put him in my first round bucket list. Love the kid from Western Michigan, Marshawn Nealand. So I almost have him in my second round bucket just because I think he's got some great upside. Great PFF score, by the way. 22, 6'3", 275. Nice edge that would be great to pair on the other side of Hutch. And the other one that you didn't mention that I kind of like here, I probably have him in my third round bucket, is Gabriel Murphy from UCLA, 6'3", 260. A nice player, I think, that can complement Hutch on the other side as well. So other than that, I think your bucket lists are sounding and looking pretty good, my friend.
Good stuff from you. The funny part is, as you're giving your rebuttals and your takes, I'm going through my list, and there's 2 names that I pulled off. One that you mentioned, Gabriel Murphy. I'd heard some good things as well. He didn't make my list. Where would you like him? What bucket would you like him in? We'll add him to the Oakery short list here.
I'd get him in that third round bucket, sir.
All right. Put him after Adisa Isaac from Penn State. He checks in at 120 overall on the rankings. I also did you the favor of moving Nealand into that round 2 bucket with Jonah Ellis. I hate to kind of take a kid from Western round 2, but if you say he's got PFF scores, he's got a nice ranking, I like the size, the measurables, I'll do that. The last name I wanted to mention before we hit our commercial break here, we still got interior defensive linemen, wide receivers, O-linemen, and my miscellaneous column to get into after the break, so stay tuned for that. Chris Braswell from Alabama. He's 6'3", 251, 44th ranked. I heard a lot of good things about his motor, his hustle, his ability. That seems like a much more feasible player to be there, possibly at 29, or a guy maybe that could even slip out of round 1 in comparison to Turner, which I haven't seen him anywhere past 8. So it just seems like, and it didn't seem like a trade up. Some of these guys I'll have at other spots I might have put in because I could see Holmes going up to get him for the certain reasons. I couldn't see Brad Holmes trading up for like a Dallas Turner based on what I've read, but that's why he's off my list. What do you think about Braswell though? Do you want him on there?
Yeah, I like him. He's another one. I'd like to think he might get to the second round, but man, I don't know. He's ranked 40. I think PFF's got him ranked as the 41st player. He's got a lot of up talent, of course, from Bama. And my funny take for Dallas Turner is Bud Oakrey. For the third straight year, Brad Holmes is not going to somehow find a way to trade into the 12th spot and draft a player from Alabama, because Dallas Turner could be that guy. Couldn't you see it happening?
It sounds like Bula Bula if you ask me, but he could sit at 29 and help the podcast out and take Kool-Aid from Alabama. That would help our show and be on a whole bunch of different levels if he likes if Brad Holmes likes him some Kool-Aid, which you know he does. So Chops, as we've mentioned, we often, especially when we get talking about the draft and all things Lions, we end up going a bit longer, but people want to hear this draft content, so I think we get our great sponsors in here. We come back, give them another 20 plus, maybe even 30 minutes of the Oakrey buckets, draft values, positions of need, takes, opinions. What do you think?
I think it's a great strategy, and I think I like the buckets. I like the flexibility here, and I love you just taking the bull by the horns and running with the show and just giving us the buckets. This is the stuff that people want. They don't want to listen to me hooting and hollering and woo-weeing and woo-woo. They don't give a rap. They want to hear about Oakrey's picks.
Oh man, you're finally coming along. I agree with you. Usually you agree with me on everything, but we'll turn the tables. Everybody, what you'll agree with is we got some great sponsors. Please listen to them. It helps out the show. And we come back, we'll do a couple quick shouts, and then we're right back into more positions of need, more ball players for the Detroit Lions. What rounds are they estimated at? How are we going to be so wrong on draft day when these guys go in a million other spots? I can't wait for all of it. So everybody, we'll be right back.
This episode is supported by FX's Clipped, the scandalous story of the 2014 Clippers owner's racist remarks captured on tape and heard around the world. The series charts the tape's impact on a dysfunctional basketball organization striving to win against their reputation as the most cursed team in the league. Starring Lawrence Fishburne, Jackie Weaver, Cleopatra Coleman, and Ed O'Neill. FX's Clipped, streaming June 4th, only on Hulu.
Jewelry isn't a gift you give just once. It's a way to remind your loved one of a beautiful moment every time they see it. Blue Nile can help you find the gift that says how you feel and says it beautifully, with expert guidance and a wide assortment of jewelry of the highest quality at the best price. Go to BlueNile.com and experience the convenience of shopping Blue Nile, the original online jeweler since 1999. That's BlueNile.com to find the perfect jewelry gift for any occasion. BlueNile.com.
All right, everybody. This goes out to my fantasy football fans out there. Now, you probably heard about Reality Sports Online, the most powerful fantasy sports platform where owners can build and manage their fantasy team like a real NFL general manager. But the question is, have you tried it? I mean, we're talking free agency, multi-year contracts, rookie drafts, multi-team trades. You can put franchise tags on guys. It's as close as you're going to get to being an NFL GM. But do you think it sounds complicated? It's not. I'm here to tell you it's the best thing about Reality Sports Online is it's just more fun than your normal fantasy league, but it doesn't take barely any more time. After all this, are you still not sure? I mean, come on now. You can test your general manager skills by going over to Reality Sports Online, call it RSO. Please go check out realitysportsonline.com right now. Kool-Aid drinkers, we're back. Thank you so much for listening to the show, retweeting the show, sharing the show, giving us positive feedback. You guys know we always try to do right by our loyal, diehard Detroit Kool-Aid drinkers as far as listeners, great sponsors. I always try to shout out Lions on Tap. Please go check out what they're doing. Our guy Notorious EET with his merch. All the different fantasy football sites that I love, I try to give them a shout out. And I'll do in particular PFF All 22. I know a lot of you guys listening love this draft content, love like being your own GM. Well, PFF All 22, you draft a whole team of 53 players, offensive linemen, kickers, and you really feel like you're building your team, and they score it off PFF and position value. So if you haven't tried that out and you love fantasy football, I suggest you go over there. I think you can use promo code DKC, but they're just always doing good things and good guys over there. So please go check them out. Chops, what do you got?
Too big share follower, but he's been all over the Twitterverse and showing some love to the Honolulu Blue Kool-Aid and the Red Kool-Aid of the Red Wings. I got Darth Raider at CastleDog17. Shout out. He's been posting, retweeting, and talking all things Detroit sports. And then another one, shouted this one out before, but Melissa at Divine Miss Mel. Again, she's all over the Twitterverse, retweeting the show, retweeting our takes. Just a great Detroit sports listener. So just happy to have those two as followers and supporters. And again, all the monthly supporters that we have, appreciate all the donations and the monthly support. It just really helps the show, and man, it helps us do great stuff like this. And it's going to really help us when we go on a gauntlet draft run of like days and days and days and hours and hours and hours of content, draft breakdown, live takes, woo-wees, choppy likeys, what is it? Just sayings from the Oakster, like all that fun stuff. You may hear a brother in there and you may hear some other stuff, but it's going to be a great, great time here in a couple weeks in Detroit. Brother.
There's no doubt about it. So without further ado, let's get into it. And again, we mentioned the Google Sheet a couple times. If you haven't got access to that and you want to check it out this year, we're kind of giving everybody a trial run, and was especially extra perks for those that do a little listener support. You can give $1.99 a month, $4.99, $9.99, whatever it is. We'll definitely shout you out on the show, maybe even give you a segment here live. But we're letting lots of people dive into the Google Sheet. If you want to just like sit back and enjoy come draft day, you could just have that bad boy popped up. Chops will probably be working that while I'm working all my boards, and we'll keep you up to date. There's no question. So try that out this year, and who knows, it may be exclusive here for years moving forward. So check it out now while you can. But Chops, let's get back into the Oakry positions of need, player buckets, whatever it may be. We got 2 positions done, and I got plenty more, so I'm looking at interior defensive lineman next. I've only got 2 names in my round 1 bucket. And I took a lot of people off, I feel like, of this position because of what they've done in free agency, adding DJ Reader, hoping that Levi, a.k.a. Big Denim, will finally do something. You've also got Aleem, which is a.k.a. Honey Bun, a.k.a. Buttercup, a.k.a. Twinkle Toes, a.k.a. Plump, and so many others that we could get into, but he's really coming into his own as an absolute ball player. So I kind of slimmed my list down, but I did leave Newton, the big fella from Illinois. He's got some injury concerns, but I did leave him on the list because he's a 3-tech that seems to have personality, leadership, and just kind of a game wrecker. And same with Byron Murphy the second, man. This is a guy that looks the part in the uniform, wears that 9-0, looks like that penetrating defensive tackle, physical beast that the Lions might want in the middle of their defense. Round 2 type bucket players. My boy Brandon Fisk from Florida State. He's been moving up my list. Chops, you kind of talked me into this one. I'm not trying to put every Michigan player on my list, but they did win the national title, in case you haven't heard, and they have a lot of great football players. So Chris Jenkins is now in my round 2 bucket as a guy the Lions might just love both on and off the field, what he brings to the table. Round 3, this is a guy I've gotten a lot of mock drafts. I like his game. It's a really nice value if he does make it to round 3. Brandon Dorius from Oregon, 6'3", 283, in that top 100 type ranking of a player. Yes, I hate this school, but this guy's still on my radar a bit. Michael Hall Jr., 5 technique from that school down south. He's in round 3 as well. Round 4, I put this guy on the list based on his football pedigree, but I've heard some bad things about his conditioning, maybe just where he's at as a football player. Seemed to really regress the last couple years. But Leonard Taylor III from the U, Shout out Benny Blades. He's in my round 4 bucket, and that's kind of where I left off there. I didn't see the need to put any late round flyer guys, but as you're going through those, I might find a name or two that we could talk about. So what do you think about those interior beasts, penetrating defensive tackle? Yes, Sweat's not on my list because we don't need another big 330-pound player. We got multiple of those guys in the middle, and we need people that get after the quarterback and do some things.
Yeah, that was the big one for me that jumped right out. I knew you would bring him up and why you omitted him, but man, Tavondre Sweat is just a beast in the middle. Huge PFF score, 91.7, first among all defensive interiors. He's a senior, I think a 3-year starter at Texas. Like, that dude is an animal. And I know he seems like a duplicate, but it's the NFL and injuries happen. And it's not a knock on the guys that we've got. I love DJ Reader. I love Aleem. I love those guys in the middle. But, Tavondre Sweat has to be in my second round bucket. That's the only one that I'm adding. You nailed the first round. You nailed the second round. I'll throw a couple of late flyers at you. Oh, I do have to correct you. I'm going to need you to play the drop Oakery. I'm going to keep talking and give you a second to get to the board. But did you put Michael Hall Jr. from that school down south, the school we shall not speak of, on your list in the third round? Did you really do that?
Chops, I did, because the school may be vanquished, but not him from my draft bucket.
Ohio State is vanquished.
Hey, listen, Ohio State sucks.
There you go.
There it is.
Now?
There it is. I love it.
I'm happier,
right, cool.
actually, with the drop. I mean, when we can get that in here in Michigan, we need to do so. So that was a good call by you.
Yep. I'll throw a couple later round flyers at you. Some of these guys maybe in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. Tyler Davis from Clemson, 16th ranked defensive interior at 85.5 on the PFF, 6'2", 300 pounds. I like that guy as a late round defensive interior. Another one that kind of jumps out at me a little bit, and he's kind of gone under the radar slightly, but Marcus Harris from Auburn, another great high score here, 26th ranked defensive interior. I think he's got some potential upside. Again, another 3-year starter out of Auburn, playing in the SEC against some big dogs in there. So those are kind of the guys that I think Brad Holmes may take a look at, or don't be surprised if you see their name pop on a draft board late.
All right, so real quick, what because we have them separated with the ranking, the basic rankings. Again, we're not ranking these guys 1 to 500. We use some different sources. Do you have in front of you if they're the 3 Tech, 5, those guys you mentioned?
So Tyler Davis, I believe, let me see. I think.
All right, I see it here. I got him. Who was the other guy from Auburn you mentioned? Because he's not on my radar right now.
Marcus Harris is from Auburn.
All right, I had to look into.
So both of those guys are they're more B gap players, but I like I said, I like what they did. Consistent starters, 3-year starters, big PFF scores again, and played against good competition. So those are the things that kind of stick out to me.
All right, so before we move to our next position, when you name these guys, and I've tentatively put them on the short list, what bucket are we putting Tyler Davis? What round?
I'd stick both of those guys in my 6th round bucket.
All right. Will do. There's one other guy, too, from Clemson. I don't have the best... I haven't heard this guy's last name pronounced, but I heard some good things at the Combine about Rook. Oh, my goodness. I'm just going to give you the spelling because I'm going to definitely mess it up.
Come on. Or horror.
Something to that effect. I heard some good things. He's a 3 Tech penetrator as well, so I'm going to get him in round 4-ish for now. He's at 88. He might be more of a round 3 player, so I'll put him in round 3 as a maybe at this point. But my only comeback on you about, you just got to think about these 1 techs. I mean, they don't play a ton of snaps. You can't have like 3 of them, 4 of them on a defense. So even back in the last couple of years when we've had Benito, we've had these other big bodies. I mean, the Lions like that for run stuffing, but you just can't have Sweat and Aleem and Reader, and then put another big body or two in the middle. So that's just why I think. And again, the other thing that I do, which I don't know if you do this, Choppy, is you're going to have to take a T'Vondre Sweat in round 2 or 3. And that's a pretty high asset, and you don't expect this guy to be playing all snaps. You don't expect him to sack the quarterback. You don't expect him to even be more than a rotational piece at best. So that's the other reason I can't invest in a guy like that. You know who I can invest in, though? Go ahead.
I was just going to say my only counterpoint to that is, I mean, again, these big boys in the middle, they get hurt a lot. So they miss a game here. They so having some rotational guys in the mix is not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing, but at what cost? Both draft assets, pay the people, and what do they bring to the table? I love Sweat's personality. I love his movement for a big fella, but I think I got other guys that can do that. A position I do value a ton, and it's more and more valued every day, is the wide receiver position. Why? They score touchdowns. They play every snap. They can be absolute game changers from day one, kind of like the guy we took last year at pick 12. And Chops, I think you're aware, and I think others are aware, but he's a multi-dimensional, positionless, elite weapon. Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's what these wide receivers can be. And you want to know the top guy on my receiver list? He's steadily crept up. And I've heard some people love this guy. Other people are dropping him. You want to know who my top wideout in my round 1 bucket is, Chops? You want to know?
I mean, is this the realistic, like he's going to be there for the Lions, or just the top guy overall?
This is realistic from what I've seen, and I am falling in love with this player and everything about him. You want to know who it is?
Yeah, share it with the people.
Adonde A.D. Mitchell, 6'3", 190, junior out of Texas. He can run routes. He has swagger. I think his upside, his ceiling is out of this world. He's my number 1 wide receiver for this football team where we're at right now. I wouldn't mind him at 29. If he does stumble down, I'll obviously take him in round 2. I could see him going 15 to 20 or higher when it's all said and done. I love this player. A guy I don't love as much as I did previously, but he's still in the back end of my round 1 bucket, but he might be coming off my list, but you're probably going to talk me into him. I'm losing some love for Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. I saw some interviews with him. He didn't jump out as a star. He seemed like a raw prospect that I wasn't in love with. But in between him and my boy Mitchell is a guy that I had no respect for before the process started, and now I think is going to be an absolute production machine, which I know you love more so than potential. And that's Lad McConkey out of Georgia. Just get him the football. He catches everything, makes plays. That's my round 1 bucket. Chops, I got to go rapid fire here in round 2. How about my boy Xavier Legette at the top of the list? Keon Coleman looks like a specimen, even though he used to be a Sparty. He made a lot of plays this year at Florida State. Troy Franklin is like a new age Marvin Jones Jr., if you ask me. Ricky Pearsall from Florida is going to be in my round 2 bucket because he's a gritty, grimy, catches everything. Round 3, let's put another Michigan player in. Roman Wilson is now on my short list. He can shake you. He can get open. He also has speed. Brendan Rice, yes, I love the pedigree from his father, but this kid made a lot of plays. He's actually a bigger body, kind of like a 6 foot plus 200 some pound. Actually not that big when I look at him, but not the blazer speed, but makes plays. And I even put the kid Walker from North Carolina in my round 3 bucket. Chops, I got to take a breath because I got more names. Receivers deep. I can find them in any round, but I would love A.D. Mitchell. I think he's becoming one of my draft crushes, no question.
Yeah, this is a huge group. So, and we all know that teams love to draft wide receivers. So that's a good 1st through 3rd round bucket breakdown. You are right. I am going to give you some business about Brian Thomas Jr. potentially coming out of your bucket in round 1. Dude, 6'4", 205. loves to block, mean, physical. Like, dude, I love this kid. I like him. I like Adonde Mitchell as well. I don't, but Brian Thomas Jr. is still ahead of him in my first round bucket. I would say that Roman Wilson is actually sliding into my second round bucket. He's the 47th ranked player at PFF. Dude, that guy, he's just a gamer. He wants to hit. He's mean. He's physical. He's going to make ridiculous plays that win you championships, a la Michigan against Alabama to win the Rose Bowl with that ridiculous catch. I think he had a really nice one against Washington as well. Dude, that guy's just he's just a stud. So the other one that is kind of coming out, I don't know. The other one I would say in my third round bucket that I would add in addition to what you had is I'm still a fan of Johnny Wilson out of Florida State.
Nope.
I know you don't like him, but he's athletic. He's got good size, and we'll see how that goes. I know he's got to work on his hands, but I know you like to call him the tight end that plays wide receiver. But I'd love to have that hashtag JMO fast. And Amon-Ra is cutting around in the slot, and they don't know what to do because they can't cover him. And Johnny Wilson is just standing there at 6'7", putting one hand up in the air saying, "Throw me the ball," because no one's going to be able to stop it if you throw it hard and high.
Who's that kid? He came out of Florida State as well. Benjamin. What's the first name? Why am I blanking out from years back? That's who he is. Something Benjamin.
No idea
he was
who
just
you're
like a
talking about.
6'6", 230-pound wideout that had like one good year, his rookie year, and then he just fumbled because he couldn't get open and can't do anything. So I don't think I'm moving Johnny Wilson over to my short list, but you did try to sell him. You know, guys like Polk, I've heard the Lions have some interest in. I did some research on him. I'm not in love with him. So here's my rounds 4 buckets. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you can hold your water in round 1s, 2, and 3, you might be able to find a nice route runner, a nice gem, a nice value later. Like my boy Jermaine Burton from Alabama. Just an absolute pro of all pros. How about Jalen McMillan from Washington? I really liked his frame. He seemed like a real cerebral type player. He's in my round 4 wide receiver bucket, round 5. I really don't think you can go wrong with Luke McCaffrey. I really don't. 6'2", 200 pounds, junior, can just, the bloodline says it all, as well as just a guy that you can just line him outside, inside, whatever, and he's going to do what you need. He's going to make plays. Anthony Gold from Oregon State is in my round 5 bucket. I've liked some things I've read about him. Maybe more of a slot player, depending on if we think we need that or if you're just going to let ARSB do his thing all day long there. Same with Cowing from Arizona. You know, more of an inside player, but they probably do need some depth there. And then I put Taj Washington kind of in my round 6, round 7. I caught a couple USC games, and he always seemed to be breaking open deep or making plays. So he made my list as well.
Yep, not a bad list. The other guy that I would love to throw on there, and I think he's been in a few of my mocks, maybe one or two of yours as well, is Joshua Cephas. I know he's not from a big name school, but I think that guy's got some upside potential. Totally agree with your take on McCaffrey too. Like, dude, you can't go wrong with Luke McCaffrey at all. Like, he's just going to work hard. He's going to do what he's got to do. Again, I don't care that he goes to Rice or came from Rice. Like, that guy is just a baller, and it's in the bloodline. Those are, a couple other names out there. The other one that I'm trying to see that I don't know I can't remember if you mentioned this guy or not. Again, I know you're gonna just laugh at this, but Cornelius Johnson is a late round flyer. Again, the guy just wins, right? Like, he plays against the best competition in the league, in college football. 3-year starter, played 14 or 15 games each year. Beat Ohio State 3 times, playoffs 3 times, national champion.
I had to stop you there because what does Corny Johnson done that impressed you other than win ball games? I mean, come on, man. Now you're getting crazy with the Michigan talk. I put Wilson in because I can see what he does on the field, but I saw nothing from Corny that keeps him on my list. So.
I mean, look, I didn't say take him in the second round. I mean, I said, 6th, 7th round flyer. So again, over 40 receptions, 47 receptions, 66 targets, 600 yards, 12 yards per catch. Yes, there was a lot of other talent around him that took a lot of, again, Michigan focused a lot on the running game, but I like this guy. He's got stuff, so he's got some juice. He's to me, he's someone's going to take him late, and they're going to be happy that they did it.
All right, we'll see about that. I could see possibly UFL or bowling alley for him, but go blue as always. Like you say, he won even though he's a wide receiver, and yeah. Let's go rapid fire here to finish this out because I've got O lineman and I've got my miscellaneous, which I know you have a lot of these miscellaneous guys on your short list. You don't care about positions of need. It's just best player available. That's what you told me over and over again. So my old linemen, whether it be tackles or interior, Fuaga from Oregon State is still like, there's really no way he's going to be there, but you know how old linemen go where he could be a trade up because he's nasty and because he could play the right, move Penne to the left type of player. So he's still on my list. JPJ, the center interior from Oregon, is on my list. Graham Barton wasn't on my list until I've read and heard a little bit more about him. Now he's actually more of a center interior that can also play tackle, which is intriguing to me. So he's back on my short list. Zach Frazier he's in my round 1 bucket, but he's more of a round 2 value if I could get him there. And actually, Futanu from Washington, even though he's a tackle more so than inside on paper, is probably above Frazier, to be honest, for me. So I'm going to make that adjustment right now. Round 2 buckets, Cooper Beebe has been anywhere from rounds 3 to round 1. I split the difference and have him in round 2 bucket. Tell me if you know, maybe you don't, but is the kid from BYU the one who's like cousins with Penne, or is that the kid from Yale? One of the two is like bloodlines with Penei Sewell.
I believe that is the kid from Yale. That's related to Penne.
Is it? All right. I need to confirm that because whoever it is, I like that guy both because of that and because of what he brings to the table. But I've got Suamati from BYU on there as well as a nice round 2 value. Round 3, the kid from Yale, and my boy Mahogany, who I like a lot from Boston College. Drop down to round 5 bucket. If you can get Zach Center there and redshirt him for a year, that'd be amazing. Frank Ribble's boy, Van Pran, offensive interior center from Georgia. He wasn't really on my radar, but now he's a round 5-6 type candidate for me just based on position. And then there's some other intriguing tackles that you can get at a late round flyer, but nobody that's certified on my list at this point for those rounds.
Good stuff. Good stuff. There's a couple of guys that I would love to add to the list. I will definitely back your take on JPJ and Graham Barton. Those are definite first-round talents. I love the versatility that they have all along the O-line. Graham Barton, he'll probably slot more as a guard in the NFL is what I'm hearing, but he did play a lot of tackle and he played some center. So the dude is just, 6'5", 314, and with that kind of versatility, I believe he's got shorter arms. We need Logan Lamrandier on here to tell us exactly like the measurables that the dude's got. He can tell you how big the guy's hands are, how big the guy's feet are, how big the guy's jock strap is. But anyway, so shout out to Logan Lamrandier doing his work all the time. Another name I feel like you left off the list that I'm putting in the second round.
Hold on. I want to play a game right now because we talk enough football, enough draft that when the minute you said I got other names, I think I already know who those names are. You want me to try to guess?
Let's see. Go ahead. Yep.
In your round 2-3 type bucket, give you Christian Haynes, interior guard from UConn.
I've only been talking about him for 5 straight weeks, so yes, ring the bell.
What bucket would you like your boy Haynes in, who I'm not a huge fan of?
He's the second round bucket man, 64th ranked on PFF.
All right, I'm putting him there just for you, buddy. Don't say I never done anything for you. All right, my second guess of a guy that you're going to name, no doubt about it, it's probably coming right off your tongue either now or next name you're going to mention is Mason McCormick, interior offensive guard type player from South Dakota State.
Again, another name that I've been touting since we started talking draft. So, where do you think he fits on the board, on my board? Since you know what I'm going to say before I even say it. What do you got there?
He's a round 3 player. You probably value him a little bit more than Mahogany.
He's a round 2 player, buddy.
Oh, no way. I was going to say more like 4. He's going to go in round 3. But maybe more round 4 player. But you're cranking up the volume to round 2. I don't see that happening. And then I don't know if you'll say this, but this is the other name I grabbed because I've heard a lot of rumor, innuendo, and buzz. Roger Rosengarten, offensive tackle, Washington, is an intriguing player. He's around 150 on the general list. I'm going to put him, I think, in round 4 there right now.
He was not one of my later round guys, but I have been hearing some buzz around him. I think he's like the 150th ranked player, somewhere in there, 152. Again, a tackle, but I think he's got some versatility. He's got some ability, probably more of a guard, but we'll see how that goes. Let me see. There was one other name, but since you very politely interrupted me. Let's see here. Oh, my late round flyer that I want to throw in the, let's say probably 6th round is Andrew Coker from TCU.
From the choppy.
If you haven't done your work on your study on him, which I know you haven't, look him up, check him out. 6'7", 315 from the Horny Frogs. Andrew Coker, look him up, do some research. And by research, I mean watch some highlights.
And that would have been my third name because it was in the choppy maki and you only have a certain amount of players that you either have looked into or know or will select based on who you selected previously. But one thing that the Oak Creek scouting office is I only have so many magnets up, and once I run through those, I don't add magnets. And so your boy Coker didn't even make the list right now as far as tackles or guards. He wasn't even on my top 30 magnets for that position, so I didn't even add one for him yet. He'll be at the bottom of the list when I get to it, but he's not on my radar right now. But you love him, so there's that. You want to get to miscellaneous here? He can play right tackle,
he can play left tackle. He's all over the place, man. Played some guard as well. 3-year starter. Dude's a beast.
And you took him in a choppy maki, so he'll forever be a love of yours, regardless of his play or what others think about him. So we know that as well. Here's where you're really going to love is these miscellaneous, because this is where you're going to get crazy. Oh, 29, we need to take this player, even though it's not a position of need. We already have guys there. You just think that you love them for whatever reason. But right now, a lot of these guys are here just because of that same thing. It's I'm probably not going to take many of these guys unless they're just glaring on the board, but you have to have them somewhat in the mix. So my round 1 guy or wild card player, I guess I'd call him at this point, is Cooper DeJean from Iowa. I'm not sold on him, but I feel like he's so straight-laced and just like a guy you don't have to worry about that the Lions will probably love him. So he's there for me. I think I told somebody on Twitter that the Lions aren't taking Peyton Wilson from NC State at linebacker because he's 24 and they already have a bunch of linebackers, but he is a very good football player, which I know they love. I think it was Javon Bullard, the safety from Georgia, who I saw at the combine. I was like, that guy just looks like an all-pro type player from his build to his mindset, so he made my miscellaneous list in round 2. My boy Jeremiah Trotter from Clemson. You've heard me talk about him a lot. He's going to be in my round 3 miscellaneous. So is our boy Blake Corum from Michigan. Kalen Bullock also makes my round 3 miscellaneous type bucket. Another safety. The Lions recently said they like to add more safeties, more competition for that position group, which surprised me. And I got plenty of guys around 4, 5, 6, and 7. So any thoughts on my top 3 round miscellaneous buckets for the Detroit Lions?
Good names. I'll throw another one on there. Tyler Nubbin from Minnesota. He's another safety, great PFF score. Played against Big Ten competition. Again, safety isn't like a huge first round need. This guy will probably go in the first round. So I don't, again, anytime I say Brad Holmes is not going to take this guy in this round, well, then he go ahead and he does that. So, but that's a player that I've been kind of taking a look at. Something that, again, I know you didn't, you don't really care if Brock Wright is on this team or not, but if he's not on this team, then I would not be surprised if Brad Holmes takes a look at a couple of tight ends, and this is where I go against what I just got done telling you all about, but Cade Stover from Ohio State, that's a later round tight end. I think he's in the top. He's like one top 115 ranking, but that's a name that might be out there along with Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. He's probably in the 130s. So those are 2 tight end names that the Lions may be thinking about or looking at if and when they have to make a decision on tight end. But don't forget, we also have this guy named Mitchell on our roster as a tight end. What's that guy done? He's been on the roster for, this will be season 3, I believe. So, but hey, there's a couple good names out there. What are your late round flyers?
Well, first of all, I've heard Ben Sinnott is the number 2 overall tight end, which would shock me, and I don't see the Lions drafting that type of player. Same with people that were doing rumor innuendo buzz about, well, what if the Lions draft Latavian Sanders, tight end, Texas? No, just no. Unless they're going to some everything 2 tight end system, which I don't see happening. So, I do have a couple late tight ends here that I'll mention that are just sneaky values and that you can throw a flyer on, but the guys you named and some of these other players, just like I don't see them doing that. But as you said, you never know. My round 4 buckets of miscellaneous possible Lions type targets: Junior Colston, again from Michigan; Tommy Eichenberg from that school we shall not speak of; Tip Ryman, tight end, Illinois. How about our boy Mike Barrett from Michigan? I heard this guy described as a kooky, crazy type player, and I thought Dan Campbell may love this guy. Again, another bad school selection, but a great name, first and last. Steel Chambers. Hopefully he stays safe off the field with that name. And then I got A.J. Barner from Michigan as a really nice tight end. I think I heard somebody say like round 3, round 4. I would never think about him until round 5 or later, but he can obviously block, catch the football. How about my boy Frank Gore Jr. from Southern Miss in round 6 to add to our stable of running backs and our dominant O-line and just pound people. Tanner McLaughlin, he's a athletic type tight end from Arizona that's getting a lot of buzz. I think I heard him projected or comp to a possible Gronkowski type. Same school, same everything. And then I threw my boy another running back late in round 7, Ray Davis. Just a no-nonsense football player, hard worker, productive player, had a couple huge games this past year. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions to just add production, safe football players in rounds 5 to 7. So that's where I'm at this point. Again, the list is fluid. We've given tons of names, tons of takes. I feel like I'm going to add to this list. I'm also going to pull people off this list, like you heard me raving about Mims, the offensive tackle. Did a little more looking into him, and he's just sort of too risky for me and just doesn't seem to be need, so I pulled him off, pulled a couple other guys off my list that I've been manipulating. So it's going to be real fun to come into draft day with that list. I'd say, looking at it right now, there's probably 50-some names on there out of the 500 type 600 prospects that are draft eligible, basically. So I feel a lot better using that list of 50 and the Lions getting 4 or 5 of those guys and us all being happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, good stuff, Okri. I almost want to kick it to the people now. I think, people, after you've listened to the show and you've heard our buckets, you've heard the breakdowns, you've heard the late round flyers, like shout out, shoot us a tweet, shoot out the show and give us a couple of names. Who are you guys looking at in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round? Like, who are your can't miss, gotta take first round guys? Like, I think this is fun. It's good to be interactive with the people, and it's good to hear, Frank Ribble's going to have a 8 consecutive tweet comment on top of a comment on top of a comment where maybe Choppy gave it a thumbs up, and then maybe there was a triple wow or a quad wow. But look, this is the best time of the year. It's so much fun. So the challenge is out, people. Tell us your late round flyers, who the Lions should be looking at this year in Detroit in the draft 2024, only a few weeks away.
And that was the challenge for the people.
And the people consist of the millions.
We know there's millions and millions of you out there. The biggest thing I want to leave this show on is, again, we can joke about like, oh, the Lions don't look at positions of need. They just take best player at every round. Obviously, there's some holes we need to fill. I've been seeing a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to take a tackle in round 2, or I want an interior player, a center in round 1. It's like, you can kind of make that work, but you also got to think, is Brad Holmes and company, are they really going to take a player that's going to be a complete backup from day one with that type of asset when they're trying to win now and bolster their team and score touchdowns and get turnovers and bolster this defense? I'd be shocked, if they take a player that's going to learn behind somebody for a year or in case of injury or some of that stuff. So please take that in consideration too before you send me your guard you're taking in round 2 when our offensive line is already set, or our safety in round 2 or 3 when we already have a lot of safety. So that's something I've been thinking a lot about, is I don't see this team taking somebody that's going to be a project, a wait and see, unless it's just glaring. They're going to fill holes, they're going to bolster both sides of the football, and they're going to try to win the whole damn thing this year. That's how I see it going down.
Yeah, I mean, my only counter to that would be, we took Jack Campbell pretty early last year, and linebacker was not on a position of need list. So again, lots of time. It's hard to turn away talent, even if it's at a position where it's for the first year, maybe quote unquote depth. But if the guy is just a dog and he fits your mentality and it fits your scheme and he does he checks every box that you have, Brad Holmes is just going to take the list and he's going to go and throw it out the window because he doesn't care about anybody else's mock draft. All he cares about is his big board. So I think, as always, we will be shocked when the cards are run to the podium and there's a name there. And I, for one, cannot wait for it.
No doubt about it, man. It's going to be really fun. And like you say, it's not about being right, but it's also about thinking about value, positions of need, team structure, contracts, how they are off the field, all those variables, rather than just what ranking or BPA or whatever Brad Holmes says. There's a lot of factors that come in that we got to try to figure out, and that's the fun of it. And in 3 weeks, it'll be happening in downtown Detroit for our Lions, and then the rest of the NFL will all be getting into it. So, Chops, man, we did about 40 minutes here on the back half. That's all I got, unless you want to woo-wee or hype the people up or give them something else to think about. But fun show this week, man.
Yeah, happy to go along. Of course, we could talk draft for hours and hours and hours. So
touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Keeping it under an hour, around 60 minutes. This for the people and folks.
Hashtag choppy liking.
I don't even have to give takes anymore because they're all in sound drops on the board. See, I just have to raise my hands. I can just mute my mic and let Oakrey take it from there. And we didn't even mention the hashtag golf train today, people. So with that, I'll kick it to you. I'm out.
Everybody, that's what we got. By the time we're recording next week, I'm predicting we may have a hashtag golf train extension signing to discuss, or maybe Amon-Ra signing on the dotted line. One of those two I think is going to happen in the next couple weeks, so watch out for that. Everybody, that's what we got. We'll catch you next time right here on the Detroit Koolaid Cast. Take care, everybody. We're out.
Caleb Williams is a bust.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in.